Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's She's Connects online networking event with a fireside chat with Lisa, who I'll introduce in just a moment. This is a new series, a new online series that we launched a couple of months ago in partnership with Women of DECA, who I'll tell you about in just a moment, and then also All Things Blockchain. So we kind of collaborate to cross-promote these to try to get as many people to these events as we can. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the purpose of the event as we progress through. I am going to do a quick little introduction before we have our fireside chat with Lisa, who is a compliance officer for Kraken. That will probably take us about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll jump into a fun networking game. So that is the agenda, just to kind of give you a bit of a rundown. I'll do a quick introduction. Who are we? What's the purpose? What are some of the upcoming events that you can tap into in the community that may be online or basically in your area? And we'll have our fireside chat. And after that, we break out into breakout rooms for a networking game. So one of the things that I love, I go to a lot of events, I organize a lot of events. I recently started going to a lot of overseas events. I love in-person events, and they're great, but sometimes it's always not feasible. We have busy lives. We might live in regional areas. It's also hard for us to maybe network and meet people that are global. So speaking of that, just while we're getting started, I would love if everybody could just put in the chat, where are you based? So are you based in Australia? Are you joining us from overseas? So myself, currently at the moment, I am based in Brisbane. So we've got Brisbane, we've got Philippines. So I'd love to see a few more. We've got Adelaide, Sunshine Coast, Bangkok, Perth. So we've got definitely a few global people, and hopefully we'll have a few more jump into the call. So we break into a breakout room. You're in there and we play a little game, and I'll give you a little bit of a rundown on that just before we go into the fire chat. If you can't stay the whole time, not a problem. You might want to, just tap out at that point when we go into the breakout rooms. But it is a great opportunity for you to network and meet people and gain some support in the ecosystem. And then we'll wrap it up with some questions. So Women in Digital Economy, what is it? Is mentorship, it's community, and it's events. And we basically offer a mentorship program that is designed to kind of help women enter into the industry and upskill, or even just learn how to kind of where to start. And we're focusing on the Web3 in the AI space. Community, we're going to be focusing on growing a global community, and that's going to be through running a series of events globally. And I'll talk about events that are coming up. But those are our kind of three pillars: mentorship, community, and events. So who is Women of DECA? Women of DECA is a community-driven initiative where it's helping and kind of empower women in the digital economy. And it's a working group of DECA, which stands for the Digital Economy Council of Australia. So it's kind of like our governing body in Australia. So please go, if you haven't heard of them before and you're definitely based here in Australia, you may want to go and take a look at them. If you are with a business or working for a business that wants to expand into the Australian market, these are the people that you would partner with and become a member to help you kind of integrate into the Australian ecosystem. So you'll notice that I have these QR codes on each of the slides. If you're interested in anything, you just scan that QR code and then we'll take you to the information, and then you can do a little bit more research on your own. And then lastly, All Things Blockchain. If you came through some of the other channels, it's a nonprofit association. I was one of the founding members of in November 2020, and we host free monthly educational networking events here in Brisbane. And then we also do some events globally and nationally across Australia. And then we do a lot of online activations. I believe the next one will be with one of our new sponsors that's coming up, and we'll be doing an AMA at the end of the month. So if you're in Brisbane, or if you are just interested in learning more, we live stream all of our events. So you can go and scan that QR code and you can follow us to tap into the events that we do. So just briefly, who am I? For those of you that I have not met before, I am the founder of Women in Digital Economy, and I'm also the founding member of All Things Blockchain. So both of those communities I just told you about. I am the events lead for DECA, so hence why I'm hosting this online event. And then I work with some of the other women in the working group, and we coordinate different events across Australia. So we did like International Women's Day. So it's not just me, it's a whole bunch of women that are in the working group. So anybody that's in Australia that's interested in getting involved, they should definitely check it out. I also sit on the blockchain committee for the ACS, and I've been in like crypto and blockchain education, specializing in kind of beginners and onboarding them for 5+ leaders. And I'm very proud to say that last year I won the Diversity and Inclusion Leader of the Year award. And that is why one of my main focuses this year is women in digital economy and growing the community. So what is the purpose? Why are we here? It's to just connect in other women and allies. So sometimes I don't know if we have any allies with us on the calls today, but we always invite them to join our events in person and online. But really it's about us creating this kind of safe space for networking and collaborating. Specifically this event with the online and going into the breakout rooms. And when I explain to you kind of the networking game, it will make a little bit more sense. But it's about kind of creating a space for you to network and meet people in a safe environment. And then also an opportunity to kind of build a global community, especially now that we're living in this digital economy, and a lot of people can kind of work from anywhere in the world. So you can connect and collaborate with other women. And that's exactly what I'm doing at the moment with building this brand globally. And we're going to talk about some upcoming events because I'll be hosting some events globally that I'll be sharing with you. But first, let's talk about next month. So I'll be doing these She Connects online events once a month, generally at the start of the month. So this one and the next one will be on May 7th. And then I will be speaking with Deborah. She is the founder of Granton. They specialize in helping like businesses and startups get grants. She'll tell you all about it on the 7th. And then we'll also go into the breakout rooms. So you can come every month and get value because you're going to hear a different fireside chat and you're going to potentially meet new people. So please go ahead and join us next month for that one. International, I'd love to know if there's anybody on the calls going to either of these conferences, because I know that we've got a few people globally. If anybody is going to Token 49 or if they are going to Consensus Toronto, I would love to know because and definitely if you can, I would love to invite you to the events. We're hosting events at both of them. So think of this format. It's kind of similar, but obviously different because it's in real life and it will depend on the sponsors that we have. But once again, it's a networking event. So please come along and join. ATB, the next in-person event that we have, which will be in Brisbane, it's with Labris. Labris are a Web3 development firm. They've been the sponsors of ours since the very beginning. These ones are a little bit more technical, though they are developers, so they kind of come with a little bit more of advanced knowledge. But we also live stream these as well. For anybody that is overseas, you can also always tune in. We always live stream our events, and we also record them as well. Lastly, Australia events, DECA. So I mentioned DECA and Women of DECA. They run a series of different events. They've got a big conference coming up in June. They do a lot of policy stuff. So you go ahead, go to their website and check it out and see if there's any events that are near you. They also do a lot of online activations as well that you can tap into. So the networking game, we're not going to jump into that now, but I just want to give you a little bit of a heads up, prepare you what does a networking game look like? We're going to break out into breakout rooms, into small groups. So it kind of depends on how many people that we end up having on the call. So generally 3 to 4 people, depending. You go into these breakout rooms and I give you these questions here. What do you do, or what do you want to do? What support do you need? And how can we help? So each person has 3 minutes, okay, to share, this is what I do, this is what I need support with. Maybe you're learning something. Maybe you are trying to build a business. Maybe you need referrals. Maybe you want to learn how to trade. Everybody will be on a different journey, just kind of sharing something that could be useful. Maybe you want to know what the best AI course is to do, and maybe somebody's already done one and they make a recommendation. It could be absolutely anything. So we'll circle back to this and we'll break out into the breakout rooms. So now I am going going to invite Lisa. Thank you so much for joining us. We are going to just keep it casual and we're going to open it up to questions as we go along. So feel free to engage, even put your hand up, ask questions if she says something that, intrigues you. Otherwise, I would really love if you could just start off, Lisa, by just sharing a little bit about your personal journey first on how you kind of got into crypto. What were you doing before and why did you get into crypto? And then you can kind of take us how you kind of ended up being a compliance officer at Kraken.
Hi, thanks a lot for having me and nice to meet everybody. I'm really happy to be able to share my journey. I don't think anyone actually, when they're little, goes, I really want to grow up and be a compliance officer. I think that's probably the thing that you don't do. But I kind of morphed into compliance and then morphed again into crypto. So I'll start from the beginning. I have, and Danielle's heard this before, but I feel like I have journeyed the full gamut. I started my career as a trader on the floor of the Sydney Futures Exchange. So I've gone from hand signaling and writing chits, like literally writing out everything I did in triplicate, tearing it off, giving one to the exchange, one to us and one to forever, like doing all of that kind of stuff, all the way through to seeing the change of the futures exchange move to screen. So then screen trading. Then I was futures sales and execution. So I was on the phones and then typing everything into the trading platforms. Internationally too, I went from Sydney over to London, and I worked in London for an investment bank for 2 or 3 years. And then I also was on the floor of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, which was pretty interesting because that's absolutely massive. Did all of that and then sort of started to morph into compliance and actually went into almost the coding area, started helping people with my futures experience, helping people look for anomalies in trading patterns and that kind of stuff. So I worked for a surveillance company that was looking to do algorithmic alerts. And then really it wasn't a very long step. It was a very short leap between doing that and then moving over to compliance proper. So I started working for Citigroup in investment banking compliance. And that's where I really sort of got the hang for liking the nagging side of things. I'm a pretty spreadsheet based person, and I think compliance sort of I really lent into that role by being able to say, okay, well, this is what you need to do, this is what you can't do. But also having that futures background, it led me to have more of a commercial mindset than, I guess, just straightforward compliance people. And I think that would be the main story that I would give anyone. The running theme is being able to morph yourself. After Citigroup, I started working for a futures exchange, a very small one that's in competition with the Sydney Futures Exchange. And I ran their compliance function there, helping them write their operating rules, working with clearing houses and getting a real sense of what happened really at the coalface behind the scenes. And as part of that role, we were looking at crypto. It was about 2019, just before COVID. Pre-COVID was when we started looking at crypto, and it just really fascinated me. Andrew Bragg had just come out with his crypto regulation bill, and I was looking into that, and there wasn't a lot going on in Australia. So I was doing a lot of research on the US and what Europe was doing. And it was a really interesting time because it really did feel almost like futures all over again, in that nobody really knew what they were doing. No one really understood what it was, except for a very small bunch of people. And it wasn't actually that hard to sort of become an expert in it because there were so few people that actually really were making that leap. And Danielle, you'd be able to empathize with that. If you start, it's still really early days. I mean, look at us, there's 10 of us. If this was a really stable, ingrained industry where everybody was on board, there'd be so many more people. So you guys are really at the forefront of it as well. And I think that's the interesting part of it at the moment. Everything is, brand new, and we are really forging these new connections, new relationships, but we're also forging new regulations and the way the world's actually running, which I think is a really interesting space. So from there, I just thought, you know what, I've had Jack of TradFi. I agree with you, Karen. So true. I had Jack of TradFi, and I saw an ad on LinkedIn for a compliance officer for Kraken. And women are all the same. We look at the job description and we go, well, that seems pretty complicated. I don't think I could do that. But I broke it down and I went, yep. And I ticked all the boxes and I thought, oh, I'll give it a go. Anyway, I'm really pleased that I got the job. So I now am the regional compliance officer for Australia. So we oversee 2 licensed entities in Australia for Kraken. And I'm also oversee a license in Bermuda. Unfortunately, I don't get to attend the board meeting in May. because I'm only the compliance officer. Compliance is a cost center. I'm still not used to being a cost center. When you're in sales, you're a profit center, but unfortunately, cost centers don't get to go anywhere. But I will be at DECA on the Gold Coast, so I will see you at DECA on the Gold Coast.
Beautiful. Well, we most likely will be hosting an event there too. I got a things brewing, so we'll
fantastic.
but you do live on the Sunshine Coast, which is beautiful
so I can't
for
complain.
anybody that is. I know we have a few global people, on the call. Sunshine Coast is definitely a beautiful place to learn, to live. Now, my question to you is, when you were reading that job ad, and it is very true, a lot of women will read a job ad and not apply because they don't tick all the boxes, or they think it's too much. And what I started doing for myself, and I recommend to others, is sometimes even if you think that you don't fulfill the job description, to just apply anyways, because the practice of like going through that, even meeting them, maybe they won't hire you that time, but then you'll be in the industry for a while, and then you'll apply again, and then they'll remember you. So just always have a crack at it is my kind of advice.
I totally agree. It doesn't really matter what it is, and I've done it before in a lot of other a few of my other roles. Look, you know what? They are always looking for people. And so I'll put a little advertisement out there. Kraken is a great company, and it's remote first. So we have a very small office in Sydney that's just basically, it's a rental so that whenever anyone's in the city, they can go there. There are some other cities around the world that have really lovely, really super cool offices. But Australia is, well, the whole company is remote first. And it's about 2,000 of us. So it was a very strange feeling for me. I'm sure others on the call are a lot younger than I am and are used to remote first or just working a lot from home. I was not at all. And that's something that really worried me when I first started, because you have to form relationships, especially, doesn't matter what role you're in, but it's all about connecting with people. And especially in compliance, you don't want to be that rat bag person that's always nagging, having all of these people that are just like having someone constantly poking you. You want to be nice to people. And I think that it's an important part of the industry in general at the moment. And it's really being helped by people like you, Danielle Marie, that foster the connection. And I just think that that's a really powerful message, is fostering connections and being able to connect like this as well as in real life makes a real difference, not only to the grassroots level of the industry, but also as you keep going. And it's the same, you'd know this as well as anybody. You see the same people at the same events, because at the moment it's just so small,
Well, yes, I agree with you and also disagree with you. And that's why I also started going overseas, because the Australian market it is great, but it's very small here. So I started to build my network globally. And that's why Women in Digital Economy is going to be a global company and a global mentorship program. But at the same time, attending events, especially in the Web3 space. And you said something earlier that I just want to circle back on quite early. And then it doesn't take too long, say, to become an expert in something in an industry that's new and evolving, because there's such a small handful of people. The 50% of those people. So I want to just ask you one more kind of question before we open it up to the audience, and then wrap it up with the fireside chat, and then jump into the networking. But when you were, looking at that job ad and you're like, okay, I'm going to go through that, and maybe you did you already have Web3 experience in terms of playing with or was it literally just all TradFi and kind of like Web2, and then you saw the job with Kraken, and then you had to like learn like all the kind of terminology? Like, how did you make that transition and kind of upskilling yourself? You had your transferable skills that you were bringing in, but how did you upskill yourself in that particular vertical?
That's a really good question. I did have a little bit of knowledge because of all of the research that I had been doing. That's the first thing, I guess. But I was still completely not au fait with all of the terms and everything else. I mean, to be fair, I'm 54 years old and I've worked with middle-aged white men my entire life. So I was still using Urban Dictionary for a lot of the acronyms to try and work out what everyone was saying. I don't have Instagram. I don't do any of that kind of stuff. So that was a really big learning curve for me. I think that what I did do though was I did do a lot of YouTube was my best friend. There are some great channels out there that take you from the beginning of Bitcoin all the way, like from basically the birth of Satoshi all the way through to, AI and what we're doing now. So that was a really good, that was a really good thing for me to do. The other thing that I did do though, and I did this previously to when I was even looking for another job, was that because crypto was starting to interest me, it's like a diploma in blockchain technology with RMIT. It was like a 6 or 8 week course online. And it was brilliant because there was some interaction, there was a couple of assignments, and it was a very small group. There was maybe 10 of us. So it was fantastic, but it was a really good way to learn different ways to communicate. I mean, we started using Slack. I had never heard of Slack before, and it was actually really good because Slack is what Kraken uses. So that was a bit of a help. But I found different ways to communicate. I learned all about the technology from the ground up, and then started to actually learn some of the terms and the knowledge and that kind of stuff. But to be fair, I think it wasn't like I was going into coding or sales where I had to really get to know what was going on from a practical perspective, because compliance and regulations are the same. And luckily for Australia, well, not luckily, wish we were further ahead, but Australia at the moment is in the position where there are no crypto regulations. So I was very familiar with the Corporations Act as it stood and the AML-CTF rules as they stood. So that really helped me. But I will say that I can see it now. It's like me when I first started versus me 3 or 4 months down the track. Two completely different people and two completely different knowledge bases.
Definitely.
But I would definitely like if you tick some of the boxes and you've got a real interest in the Web3 space and crypto essentially, but you've got great skills when it comes to designing, coding, engineering, whatever it is, and those kind of jobs coming through on the crypto exchanges or in Web3 generally, go for it, because you don't know, like if you think that you're not enough, you may well be enough. But on the other hand, if you think you're enough and they go, yeah, we'd really like to see more of X, then you know what's missing what's missing. And that's a really good thing, because then you can go off, and there are a gazillion courses and often they don't cost that much. You can do TAFE. Someone I know on this call does TAFE. Like,
yeah. Well, I have a lot of resources, and that's what we're building with Women in Digital Economy. We actually, all of the women that go through the program actually get free access. We've partnered with Blockchain Academy, so I've got over 15 different courses. And then we'll be partnering with different education providers. So there'll be an abundance of resources. And then we're actually making a hub where we'll have access to all of our education partners and our community partners. So there'll be an abundance of educational content for anybody in this community. But you are right. I had to do the same thing. I had to upskill myself, learn the terminology. I don't come from a technical background. I was a high school dropout before. I've now graduated with a bachelor's of information systems and have 2 advanced diplomas and 2 diplomas. So that's changed. But when I started this journey, I wasn't. So I had to. It was a big learning curve, but I made that commitment because I was interested. So for anybody that is on this call and wants to get tapped into more education, please feel free to reach out to me. I've got an abundance available for you.
I think that's your friend. Education is your friend when it comes to this kind of stuff. And, you've really got to just take that leap of faith. I mean, being on this kind of networking calls is a great way to start, and it's a great way to learn, and it's just a great way to meet people. And it's through meeting people, because women are so good at that. Women are like, oh, hang on, I know someone who knows someone who knows someone. Or I was talking to someone at an event the other day and they were saying that they were looking for, that kind of stuff.
Connect them. Yeah.
always
super
worked.
connector. And I'm really good at that. So that's why I fell into that role. And I'm sure we could talk about that for ages, but we also do a bit of its profiling and stuff in the mentorship program to help people understand where their strengths are. But we're going to jump into a few of the questions in the chat before
Okay.
we break into the breakout rooms. So Karen asked, how many people work for Kraken Australia?
I think there's about 50 in Australia, but for Kraken, I'll give you a really quick rundown. Kraken is a really interesting corporate model. It's based in the United States, and everything comes out of that corporate hub. So all of the functions all sit within the US like corporate hub. I am a member of WODECA. It's cool. When I say I run compliance, I do, but there's only me in Australia. But all of my staff, I go to the corporate hub for all of the KYC, all of the reporting, all of the this, all of the that. So I run the strategy and I'm on the ground, like I'm the expert, I'm the SME for Australia. And then we have me, 7 other places in the world. There's like 7 other regional compliance officers that do the same thing, but for different regions. And we all go into there. But in Australia, there are 2 locally owned entities and Australian licensed, ASIC licensed entities. And all up, I think there's probably about 15 people, 15, that work specifically for Australia. But I reckon there's probably about 50 in Australia at any one time. But we get a lot of digital nomads that just come out and join the Australian chat for when they're here.
Well, one other question I have before I go to the one about hybrid questions. Do you have to be Australian to work for the Australian entity?
Nope.
No. Okay.
There's people in Australia. I'm close friends with the girl that lives on the Gold Coast, and she doesn't work for the Australian entity. She works for the US entity. And I just found out today, a really close friend of mine who was working with, like, alongside me in another department, she's now working with the Irish entity.
Oh, interesting.
So she works here. So she was saying, oh, what's the Irish RCO like? And I was like, she's great.
Oh, but
just don't go out drinking with her.
Because she's Irish. Yeah. Okay. Lisa asked, if the jobs are listed as hybrid, do you encourage to apply for them anyways?
Yeah. At Kraken specifically, there are no hybrid jobs. It's remote only. But I would, I mean, it depends on where they are, and it depends where you are. Like, I'm on the Sunshine Coast. I wouldn't apply for a hybrid job if it was in Brisbane or Sydney or anywhere, because I'm done. Like, I'm over that. But it depends on where you are it depends on time zones. Yeah, it depends on where you are in your career, and it depends on what what works best for you. But sure, because if it's a hybrid role, I'm sure they won't want you in the office. It depends. A girlfriend of mine works up here for an investment bank, and she goes down to Sydney just once a month for 2 days. And that's their definition of hybrid. So it depends. Yeah, go for it. You've got nothing to lose. They can only say sorry.
And I think you learn just going through the process every time.
Of course. You know what to say and not what to say.
Yeah, it's practical.
I mean,
sure.
If they want you, they'll hire you.
Yeah. And I think it's that a lot of the times they're looking at are you the right culture fit? What's your previous skills? They'll choose sometimes that person over, or make kind of some negotiations. Susan asks, who runs the governance in Kraken in Australia?
Compliance governance is me. So I'm responsible for the governance and oversight of all of the compliance programs. And then I also tap into the risk committee that is run by another department, but that comes out of the corporate hub. But we work closely together to make sure that the compliance governance and the oversight is always stitched up. There's independent audits as well that happen once a year. That happens to all crypto exchanges.
Unmute yourself if you want and just.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to ask multiple questions and I'll lower my hand at the same time and everything else. And it's really good to be able to have these questions because what it is. So I have like 3 decades of experience working in sustainability and circular economies, social enterprise, governance, audit, and I've been working in businesses that don't see the value of blockchain and tokenization and everything else. And it's like I'm now at this moment where I'm at this crux with to younger children, so they're in primary school, and I'm like, I want to be able to work in this system because they need this. And I see tonight as a timely option, and it's just like, because businesses don't. So if you're open to I'll take this offline, but if you're comfortable with that, I'd like to be able to speak to you more, because you know, I've been trying to navigate the system here in Adelaide, but more in Australia to then work. I mean, building my own layer one blockchain.
Yeah, wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah.
To solve the problems of the world. But it was just a question, because it was just, and thank you for giving me the platform to be able to ask. So I'll go back. And Danielle, I'm grateful because you're amazing. And this is the whole point. So it's like, yeah, Lisa, we'll do there and we'll go from that spot. That was the only reason I asked the question.
No, that's fab. I've actually just put my email address on the chat, so feel free. Anyone, like, honestly, if anyone ever has any questions about anything or whatevs, just email me. I'm always happy to answer.
Thank you. Blessed.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Susan, for asking questions. We are going to wrap it up with the questions. But speaking of asking questions and support, and that's what the whole purpose of this session is today, is to see how we could support each other. So, like, for example, if Susan and Lisa ended up in the same room, then they would maybe, you know, talk about kind of a little bit of what we just talked about. So, kind of perfect example of how you can maybe connect somebody with somebody that you know. I am a super networker. That's what I do. Even like I go to a lot of events and I'll connect people, just try to kind of super powerful. And I tell a lot of my students and the women going through the mentorship program that are looking to transition into building careers or taking their skills and transferring them into the space. A lot of it is the industry and connections. I can't even tell the last time I applied for a job just went online, kind of how like Lisa did, and saw it for Kraken for compliance and applied. I personally, because my journey has just been always like, you know, I have a very different journey than that, but certain roles, probably like compliance officers, they would probably be harder to come by. But like for me as like an educator and everything that I've kind of done, it's always been industry or referrals or like, you know, and so I really recommend tapping in. And we will be building a platform. I have a lot of announcements coming out with women in digital economy, a little bit of alpha. We're actually even doing a mini rebrand with the name, and then we'll have a platform. We're just picking on what is that platform, because it's so, you know, Slack, WhatsApp, Telegram, there's a million of them, you know, the mentorship program, where's all the content? So we will eventually have a community where we'll be able to bring everybody into a chat. I'm just trying to decide what that is. At the moment, I'm torn between Telegram and Slack, but that's for a future offline conversation. But just pay attention for some updates. And what we're going to do now is we're going to break into the breakout room. Karen's votes for Slack. Maybe I'll have to do like a poll on socials or something, but I'm thinking Slack because I'm keeping my team in Slack. And then I just have to see what integrates with I've heard of a new platform, Go High Level. 2 people have talked to me about that in the last 2 days that are from completely 2 different circles. So that's the universe telling me I should really look at that platform. But it's supposed to be kind of like an everything for running communities and, you know, in conversations. Discord, I'm not a massive fan of Discord, but I love everyone's opinions and to see what they use. But yeah, that's the problem, is there's just so many choices. We are going to jump into the networking game, and then anybody that does stick around and come back into the main room, more than happy to jump on and do a few more questions. But I am mindful of time, and I want to make sure that for those people that, you know, have to go maybe right at 7 o'clock, they get in a networking session. So what we'll do, I have copied and pasted. If you didn't already see, I'm going to do it again. The questions. I'm pretty sure when you go into the breakout rooms that you can still see the main chat, but I'm not 100%. But if not, maybe even just, you know, take a screenshot or copy and paste them. But each person, and maybe one person can be really super organized and have like a 3-minute timer on their phone. And you guys can, you know, each take 3 minutes. You go around, you basically just say, what do you do? Or maybe what you want to do. Like how Susan just kind of said, this is what I've been doing for the last 20 years, and this is what I want to do. Like that was like the perfect example. So thank you for demonstrating the beginning of the networking game when we weren't even playing it yet. So I really appreciate that. And then what support do you need? Okay, she's like, can you maybe point me in the right direction of who I could contact, or where are there some potential resources? And then how can we help means is like, so Lisa would be like, okay, how can I help? Let me make an introduction for you. Or, hey, this is a really good book that I read that I learned a lot about governance, or whatever it may be. And you'll go through those. Any questions before we put you into the breakout rooms? And now if you do have to jump off, I know a few of you need to go, now would be the time. But if there's no questions, what I'm going to do, there is 6, so that's 3 and 3. So I'm going to manually put 3 and 3 people. And then Lisa, you and I can stay and have a chat. I am going to press the stop of the recording, okay? So just so you know, what happens in your breakout room stays in your breakout room. It's, between you, it's not recorded, it's not shared. So with that being said, I'm going to press the stop recording button. And thank you for everybody that did tune in and is watching the recording. We look forward to hosting more events and you attending.